So I brought one, and it's about, I'm just gonna play it for you because this actually came across my feed recently, and I was shocked because I did not realize this existed.
Mhm.
So we're gonna talk about it. It's gonna be very familiar, I would imagine, um, but it is related to Starcade because, of course, I grew up loving Starcade. So that's where we're going with this one.
Professional wrestling have I seen so many letters from so many fans all over the world come in for one man. And it wasn't too long ago we all thought this man would not come back to professional wrestling. Fans all over the world are waiting to hear from this man. Welcome him back with me. Here he is, the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Tony, I'd like to say, first of all, that a couple people that I want to say thank you to. Dr. Joseph Swanek helped put me back together when I was way down there. Jim Crockett Jr., President Jim Crockett Promotions, took time and waited on Starcade 85 until I got the okay to wrestle again to make me and Ric Flair Starcade 85 for the world's heavyweight title. That has been signed, sealed, and will be delivered. Let me tell you something, Ric Flair, out there somewhere where you are in television land. You have put hard times on me, hard times on this country. You don't know what hard times are. Hard times are when the textile workers are out of work and they can't pay the living to feed their family. That's hard times. Hard times is when the Ford Motor Company shuts down and sends 1,000 people home. That's hard times. And hard time is when a man has worked 30 years on the same job. They kick him in the butt, give him a watch, tell him go home. You being replaced by a computer. That's hard times. And it's hard times when Dusty Rhodes went down. Because when I went down, a whole country of wrestling fans went down with me. I got a lot of letters. I got a lot of cards. I got a lot of goodwill from a lot of people. But most of all, Flair, all I got from you was a little smirky smile. Now, dear, in your lifetime, remember what I'm saying right now. Starcade 85, Nature Boy Ric Flair, the American Dream Dusty Rhodes, gonna come for you. And if you thought for 1 minute, kid, that you dealt with risky business, now you're dealing with risky business. Because Dusty Rhodes is risky business. One way, Tony, one way to cure Ric Flair is to take what he wants more than anything in the world, what he has. And that's that gold around his waist. I reach out for you right now. We're going to gather the most people ever in one building in a lifetime. Gather together for this gathering. Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream. There ain't nothing wrong with my leg now. And I'm going to put it where the sun don't shine on Thanksgiving night, Starcade 85.
Wow, that's wow, man. As soon as he started, I was like, hold on now. Right. That's
Huh?
that's wild.
A
Huh.
little foreshadowing to that. A certain famous promo
Yeah.
that
Right.
actually didn't take
Yeah.
place until the following year.
Interesting. That's crazy. Wow. He obviously
So,
loved those lines. I mean, they're for sure. They were gold. Yeah.
for sure. So, all right, out of lead, I'll come to you first.
Yeah.
So obviously you
Yeah.
both had a reaction to that, but go ahead.
I know I'm blown away because I was hearing. I'm like, oh shit! I'm like, wow, these are this is exactly the same. No, what struck me even at the end right there, they pan to the audience. Obviously, it's the studio audience, which is still like one of my favorite formats for wrestling. I know it's not profitable or anything, but it's really cool to me. No one looked super young. Everybody looked like they were like their 20s or 30s in that crowd, right?
Mm.
Male, female. I mean, they could have brought them in to cheer on just generally, but it doesn't seem that way. It just goes to show Dusty is truly that everyman that I could just be walking by and sit with anyone, and they'll appreciate his conviction, his passion, and he's already talking about the everyman, right, and how everybody rose up to support him except Ric Flair. But he does a great job of really reeling you in from this kind of a humanity as a centerpiece, right? The plight of the worker, the plight of being laid off, and you're talking about a time where there's a recession and happening, and they're really drawing on real things in real life that real people are experiencing at the time. Um, And it's not something that I see nowadays, right? Now we tend to cut to the personalities, and there's less leaning on current events because we want to see his wrestling as this escape, right? And he's not.
Mhm.
He's leaning on the realities that folks are going through and the hardships, and then obviously brings you back to the centerpiece of the promo with Ric Flair. But man, I'm still blown away how much he incubated these little nuggets, right? That eventually it's almost like a comic, right? A stand up working out material in clubs over months, over sometimes years, even until they get the right, you know, the right delivery, the right response, because he's listening to the crowd. You even see him speed up a little bit when they start talking over him, right? When that young man starts yelling and the girl starts screaming and they're shouting back what he should do or how he should follow through, and he's trying to talk over them because they know he's at the finish line. And as soon as he's there and he's done, the audience knows that's the natural end to it.
Mm-hmm.
And to get to that level of understanding who you are, but also saying it out loud without sounding boring, what a talent, and
Definitely.
what a treat to see this one, honestly.
To echo exactly what you said, Adelaide, it's like a stand-up artist. Like you work the circuits. This works. This didn't work. Next show, I'm gonna do the one that did work. I'll probably leave what didn't work. And when you compare the two, very similar approach, but there were little adjustments here and there. Dusty Dusty was a pro's pro. You can tell that Dusty was a game tape watcher. I'm sure he studied himself. He studied the reactions that he would get on these kind of the studio promo is probably one of the best ways of at least testing out material. And that's the reason why I'm such an advocate for something like NXT because it's a little bit of a closed arena and you get to test out things and you see what works, what doesn't work, make your little adjustments, and then go to something bigger, more grandiose. But foundationally it definitely works. And it it was just crazy because as soon as I heard the beginning of it, it took me aback. I was like, hold on, let me see, is he gonna give us the hard times promo? And sure enough, that's what it was. It was the beginnings of it, and
Mm-hmm.
that's awesome to watch, man.
Wild, right? There's a couple other nuggets in there. You remember he said this is a gathering.
Mm-hmm.
So Starcade, that was Starcade '84 that he's promoting.
Okay, okay.
Starcade '85 was called the Gathering.
Mm.
Ah,
That Nike's
okay.
Hard Times promo, I believe, promoted Starcade '85, but in the Mid Atlantic territory. So this right here was in Georgia
Mm-hmm.
on TBS. But if you watch the traditional Hard Times promo, he's in Mid Atlantic.
True.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's working a
Like
circuit. He's that's
100%.
Yeah.
yeah, that's crazy, man. That's awesome.
But I mean, I love this one. I mean, and the way he was like they made it real. He thanked the
Mm-hmm.
doctor. He thanked Jim Crockett. Because you got to think about back then, it was NWA. It wasn't. Yes, people knew Jim Crockett Promotions, but it was
Right.
like it wasn't in your face. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
So if you really go back, that was pulling the curtain back a little bit. That was a little bit of thinking Vince before people knew who Vince was.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Um, it's just kind of interesting to see certain things. There's another promo from that same Starcade where Wahoo McDaniel was talking to David Crockett and said, "Your brother is the one that messed me up." And I was like, "Dang!"
Oh wow.
Pull the curtain back, and I'm like, way ahead of his time, bro. I mean, so far ahead of their time. And it's like you sit back and go, "Man, what if? What if?" I mean, but I love this promo. And if you go back, I've watched it a few times, obviously, and I would argue that it's might even be better than the actual Hard Times promo because it's
Mm.
not as it's almost like it flowed out. It's like the Hard Times promo to me feels a little bit more rehearsed. This is
Okay.
a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
raw because he even does the whole reach out. When
Right.
it comes out,
Right.
reaches out just like he does in the hard. I was like, man, this is so good. But I had no clue this existed, and I was
Yeah,
like,
that's
wow,
crazy.
this is
Yeah.
cool.
That's cool.
But I mean, those leading up to Starcades, man, I don't know that there's a whole lot of better examples of talking them into the building. That's all they did.
Yeah, for
And back
sure.
to that studio wrestling, it definitely wasn't profitable because they were free. So definitely wasn't
Yeah.
profitable. But
You-
that's something we should go look at one day because I can actually show you some old WCW footage of a young Greg Troxel in that studio.
Where center
No.
stage or
No, sir, at the
TBS
TBS
studio?
studios.
Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
Oh, dope.
yeah,
That's dope. That's
yeah.
That's
dope.
So
cool.
yeah, it's cool. I went back one day and showed it to my kids. They're like, seriously? I was like,
Well,
that's me right there.
that could
But
be definitely a future show idea there for
yeah,
the
yeah,
listeners.
for
Heck
We
sure.
yeah.
we've all been on camera at a show, and you all
Hmm.
Yeah.
have some really cool stories that do, including some modern wrestlers that
Yeah.
are on your
Yeah.
main event right now
Mm,
that they
That's a
had
fact.
interactions with. The
that's
That's
a
a
same, we
fact.
all
fact.
have some, but y'all have some really good
For
ones.
sure, for sure.
Hmm.
But man, I mean, to me, I know we got one more segment to go, but to me, I love these promos we all brought.
Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like the family, the Thanksgiving tradition, and what it means to each one of us individually. You know what I mean? Um, I mean, I wore this hat in honor of my promo. I'm like, and I'm watching it, and here's what's so wild about that promo. Go back. You guys talked about the realism, right? And the everyman, and
Hmm.
he's talking about Flair, and there's such a contrast between those two, and
Definitely.
how Dusty related to every single person. Didn't matter who you were, but Flair was that up here person. And you fast forward to today, Cody is just beyond popular, but he's Ric Flair. He's got a
You have been
beautiful
saying that.
wife.
Yeah, you
He
have been saying that.
dresses to the nines. He carries the belt like Ric Flair. He's been, let's call it what it is. He's been handed it. He was born with the wrestling silver spoon. And I'm like, this is crazy that he's like Ric Flair with Dusty's connectivity. It's just crazy, and I love it. I love Cody, but it's just like it's just wild. Like watching that made me think about, man, Cody is his son, and I can see it, but man, I don't see it at the same time.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Now, since you said Cody is the Ric Flair, would I be off base by saying Kevin Owens is the Dusty?
100%, you'd be right.
Hmm. Wow. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah.
That
Yep.
Yeah.
tracks.
And,
And
and
they,
but it's a reflection of how different the society has become.
Right. 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 Huh. That makes you think, man.
Hmm.
That makes you think a heel Dusty versus a babyface Flair. How would that
Ooh, it would never have
program?
worked back
And
then.
yeah.
It just
Yeah.
wouldn't have worked
right.
because it didn't really start changing until later on when people started to cheer Flair. They didn't. People talk about they love the Horseman. They didn't like the Horseman until later.
No. Right.
Hmm.
When Dusty was feuding with them, you didn't see them like it. Later on, when Dusty kind of left, and you kind of had the Steamboat thing come in,
Mm-hmm.
that's when you started to see things change a little bit.
If you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe, and of course, look us up on socials at Suplex Dinner Club. And be sure to check out our other projects. We talk college football on Dogs versus All Y'all. That's a weekly college football podcast where we don't just talk about the Georgia Bulldogs, we talk about all things college football. The Life and Times Pod, which is short for the Life and Times of a Restaurant Lifer podcast, where I have some chill conversations with some cool and interesting people that I've met in my years in the hospitality industry. And of course, check out Talk 'em in the Building. That's a pro wrestling podcast where we solely focus on the promo. We talk about the talkers, we hype the hype man, and we pontificate on the promo. It's a fun project, and if you're a pro wrestling fan, I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. If you're into TV and movie reviews, check out Four Corners Cinema with Ari and Adrian, a podcast where two lifelong pro wrestling fans review film and other forms of media that just so happen to have some of our favorite pro wrestlers. The Suplex Dinner Club family is growing, and I would love for you to be a part of it.